show you what's happened here over the past couple of years of my life. Just about every week for the past 2 years has started out about the same. I hop in the car, drive my 45 minutes to whichever airport I'm flying out of this week. I head down. Okay, if I've had a bad week, I might opt in for the security pat down. But usually I just go through the screening process, but I've got a routine. I know which bag to pack. I know what goes where. And everything always makes it in the bag, except for a couple of belts and a few ties that all have been purchased before 7:30 in the morning at a Walmart somewhere near you. This is what life's like as a professional speaker. And I can remember back in January, I had this opportunity. I got on a plane. Now, you got to think, over the last year, I've probably been on 200 airplanes at least, going or coming from somewhere to go speak and present and carry on. And I get to the airport, I get checked in, I go through security. My favorite part of the flight is probably in Houston, about July or August, when they open that door and you step onto the jetway and jet exhaust. Hot, sticky, sweet, tasty jet exhaust. You head down, you get onto the plane, and you settle in. You know the routine. That wheeler bag goes above you in the seat compartment. Wheels out, please. Otherwise, it's not going to fit. Your small bag has to fit underneath the seat in front of you. Please put your tray table upright. Get your seat upright. Buckle your seat belt, please. Turn off your electronic devices. And please listen to me tell you one more time what to happen in the event of a water landing. Back in January, I get on this plane. I was headed from Houston, Texas, up to Midland, Odessa. You flown into Midland? You like it over there? It's a great place, isn't it? I've never seen a network of lease roads and oil wells like you see when you fly into that airport. And I'm flying in, and I'm seated back at about row 22A. Now, I'm on a regional jet. All right? The regional jets are the ones that the A seat is both a window and an aisle. It's the best part of the whole flight. So I'm sitting back here about row 22A, very near the back of the aircraft, just ahead of the lavatory. Another great, sweet, wonderful smell of flying. So here I am on the plane, having a great time, sitting back there in my routine. I've got my Kindle going, I'm reading a book, I've got an iPad, or my iPod going, playing some music. But I kind of noticed something different. I noticed it started when I got on the plane, and there was just something amazingly pleasant about this flight attendant. I've been on a lot of planes, and trust me, they're not all that nice. But there was something really amazing about this flight attendant. She was polite. She smiled. She talked to everybody. And before the flight had taken off, I caught a glimpse of her name tag, and I knew what was coming. We get up to our cruising altitude. She starts coming back down through the aisleway with her cart of beverages. And she gets back to me, some random business traveler in seat 22A. And I knew what was coming. She got up to me, and she walked up, and with a smile on her face, she looked at me, this random business traveler, and said, "Mr. Cooksey, what can I get you to drink?" And I smiled, and I said, "Judy, you won't remember me, but 3 years ago," she said, "you're the guy that wrote the blog." You see, I'd been on one of Judy's flights 3 years ago, and I had the same exact experience. She was amazing. She was polite. In fact, Judy goes down. It kind of freaked me out the first time, right? She came out, she calls me by name. I'm like, okay, I'm not a first-class flyer. I don't even have status yet. This is early in my career. Nobody should know who I am. I was like, who knows I'm on this flight? I'm not supposed to be. She looks at me, she said, "Mr. Cooksey, what would you like to drink?" And I asked her on that flight, I said, "Judy, I'm sorry, did you call me by name when you asked what I wanted to drink?" And she said, "Why, yes, I sure did." Diet Coke it was? I said, well, yes. She goes, "Is everything okay?" And I said, "Well, I'm just curious, why?" And she leaned down to me as if she'd never said this before. She said, "You know, this job isn't rocket science." And I said, "Okay." She said, "You know, a few years ago I was flying around, and I fly a lot. You think I fly a lot? You think we fly a lot as speakers? These flight attendants get it done." And she's on a flight. She said, "You know what? I was really getting bored. And I figured out the last thing somebody handed me before I take off, stick their arm through the door with a manifest telling me the name of every person seated on the plane." She goes, "I decided at that point I was going to take it upon myself to start introducing myself to people and calling them by name on my flights." Nobody told her to do that. Nobody told her to do that. So back in January, we're talking about, I had written a blog about that experience. I had also sent a quick note over to the airline and said, please recognize Judy McClure as being an outstanding person who works for you. But I never knew if Judy had gotten the message. She said, oh yes. She said, first of all, I didn't know what a blog was until my boss handed me a copy of yours in a meeting. And I said, all right, that's good. What are we going to do with that? She said, well, I just wanted to tell you thank you. And I said, Judy, this is great. And so we chatted for a few minutes, and you could tell the person behind me was like, my Diet Coke, please? Right? So she goes back, serves them the drinks. We finish out the flight. I kind of drug my feet towards the end, though, because I wanted to chat with Judy a little more. And I got to the end of the flight. Everybody else got off the plane. I was the last guy off. I'm carrying my wheelie bag off, and I've got my carry-on bag in the other hand. I'm walking out, and I stopped, and I said, Judy, I just wanted to say again, thank you. And she looked at me. She said, wait a minute, before you leave. You travel around and you teach people about customer service, don't you? She did read my blog. I said, yes, I do. She said, let me ask you a question. What could I be doing different? My jaw hit the jetway. I said, Judy, do you understand for the past 3 years I've been telling your story as what to do for great customer service, how to take initiative, and nobody told you to call anyone by name. I said, let me ask you a question, Judy. Where did you learn it? She said, you know, as I think back, it probably had something to do with my mom and dad. They owned a five and dime store when we were growing up. My dad was in the retail business, and he knew that it was all about relationships. Now, I've given a lot of thought to that since I visited with Judy in January, and I've started paying attention. With all these audiences, large and small, people that work for big companies, little companies, public, private, for-profit, not-for-profit, I'm looking for the common thread saying, what is it people come to hear me speak about that they want to change, that they can make a difference when they get back to their companies and organizations? And I figured out that people crave those business relationships. Judy had my attention, my full attention. Her job on that plane is not to serve me a beverage. It's to be there in the event of an emergency to help us safely evacuate the plane. She's a safety officer. The average traveler doesn't know that's the primary role of a flight attendant. But she took it upon herself and said, it's way beyond safety. She said, if I can just help you enjoy this one flight. That's her contribution back to what she does. What kind of relationships do you build with your vendors, your customers, your employees, your boss, your spouse? Folks, I can tell you, all the problems I've helped coach people to understand how to become better at what they do. The experience you pro-trackers have gotten by being surrounded by people that you learn to trust, to share advice with, to build each other up. Please know, at the core of all of your problems in any organization is how well you learn to communicate with each other so you can build the trust required to have great relationships. I applaud each and every one of you that are graduating today for taking that bold step. I loved the message of being here to become better at what you already know inside you can do and get that message out. I thank you all for the chance to be here today, and I challenge you all, focus on those relationships and the rest of it falls right into place. Thank you.